Research Vessel Stellar Seeker, Deep Space Observation Post. Captain's Log, Cycle 847. Captain Vexra of the Galactic Survey Corps stared at the holographic display with all four of her eyes, mandibles clicking in disbelief. The ship's sensors had picked up yet another warning beacon, the 12th one they discovered orbiting this unremarkable yellow star system. "Play the message again," she ordered, her crystalline exoskeleton shimming with anticipation. The ship's AI complied, projecting the ancient warning in glowing script. Key Audition. Class 13 Deathworld detected. Indigenous species, humans. Extreme danger. Do not attempt colonization. Do not provoke. Additional warning. They don't know they're dangerous. First Officer Zin Tol floated closer, his gas-based form swirling with curiosity. Fascinating. The oldest beacon dates back 50,000 standard cycles, while the newest is barely 200 cycles old. Different species, different eras, same warning. What makes this world so dangerous? Lieutenant Kai Rem asked from her station, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with interest. The preliminary scans show a Class M planet with relatively stable conditions. Vexra manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up detailed planetary data. That's what's so peculiar. By galactic standards, it's not particularly extreme. Gravity is within normal ranges, atmospheric composition is typical for life-bearing worlds, and the solar radiation is moderate. Then why? Kai Rem began, but stopped as new data streamed across her console. "Captain, you need to see this. We're picking up thousands of artificial satellites, atmospheric craft, and are those primitive fusion explosions." The bridge crew gathered around the main display as images of Earth filled the screen. They watched in stunned silence as humans went about their daily lives, climbing frozen mountains, diving into oceanic trenches, racing vehicles at lethal speeds, and casually handling substances that would dissolve most species' outer membranes. "They're testing nuclear fusion in their backyards," Zin Tol observed, his gaseous form condensing slightly in shock. "And is that human? Fighting one of their apex predators for entertainment?" "Correction," the ship's AI interjected. "That's what they call professional wrestling with alligators. It's considered a regional sport in something called Florida." Captain Vexra's exoskeleton changed color as she processed this information. What's truly remarkable is that they don't seem to realize how extraordinary this is. Look at their entertainment broadcasts. They complain about mild temperature variations that would kill most species, then casually discuss exploring other planets. The crew continued observing, fascinated and horrified in equal measure. They watched humans pursue dangerous activities called extreme sports, handle materials that should be lethal, and casually survive conditions that would be considered apocalyptic on most worlds. "Captain," Kai Rem called out, her bioluminescence flickering rapidly. "I've been analyzing their global information network. They have something called social media where they share daily activities. Look at this." The screen filled with images of humans doing what they considered normal activities. Cooking with open flame, keeping apex predators as pets, deliberately ingesting capsaicin for pleasure, and voluntarily jumping from high altitudes for fun. "By the void," Zin Tol whispered, his gaseous form rippling with amazement. "They're not just surviving on a death world. They're actively seeking out more dangerous situations and treating it like entertainment." Captain Vexra made a decision. "We need to make contact." "But Captain," Kai Rem protested, "every warning beacon specifically advises against." "Precisely why we must," Vexra interrupted. "Think about it. These humans have developed primitive spaceflight capability. Soon they'll venture beyond their system. The galaxy needs to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" Zin Tol asked. "For a species that treats deadly radiation as a minor inconvenience, keeps predators as companions, and thinks diving into pressurized depths is a vacation activity. A species that doesn't just survive catastrophic conditions, They turned them into sporting events. The bridge fell silent as they contemplated this. Finally, Kai-Rem spoke up, her bioluminescence now a steady pulse of determination. How do we even begin diplomatic relations with such a species? Captain Vexra's exoskeleton shifted to a deep blue of resolution. Very carefully, and perhaps with some of that protective gear they call coffee cups. According to their data streams, it seems to be an essential diplomatic tool. As the Stellar Seeker prepared for humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization, none of the crew noticed a small addendum to one of the warning beacons. P.S. If you're foolish enough to ignore this warning, at least bring snacks. They'll try to feed you anyway. Might as well come prepared. The first step toward changing the galaxy forever was about to begin, whether the galaxy was ready or not. Research vessel Stellar Seeker. Observation log. Earth orbital position. 30 days since initial contact decision. The entire research team huddled around the observation screens, watching in fascination as humans went about their daily lives. Captain Vexra had ordered a thorough study period before making direct contact, and each new discovery left them more astounded than the last. "They're doing it again," Lieutenant Kai-Rem announced, her bioluminescent patches flickering rapidly with excitement. "That group of humans is deliberately running toward danger." The screen showed a raging forest fire in a region called California. While most species would evacuate to a safe distance, human emergency responders were charging directly into the inferno to combat it. Even more remarkably, civilian humans were helping their neighbors evacuate while carrying improbable amounts of personal possessions. "Notice how they're making jokes while doing it," Zintol observed, his gaseous form swirling with amazement. One of them just said, "This is fine," while surrounded by flames. Their ability to use humor in lethal situations is remarkable. Captain Vexra's exoskeleton shifted through various shades of blue as she updated her report. Their resilience goes beyond physical adaptability. They demonstrate psychological resistance to conditions that would traumatize most species. The observation team had compiled an extensive list of human anomalies. They watched humans routinely survive events that should have been extinction-level threats. A massive geological event in a region called Japan had merely resulted in improved building codes. A global pandemic had somehow spawned both medical breakthroughs and an endless stream of what humans called memes. "Captain," the ship's AI interrupted, "you might want to see this. I'm picking up activity from their polar research stations." The display shifted to show human scientists working in Antarctica. They were conducting complex experiments in temperatures that would freeze most species solid, all while complaining about slow internet connections and missing something called decent coffee. Are they aware that they're living in what most species would consider uninhabitable conditions? Kai-Rem asked, adjusting her sensors to better analyze the human activities. "Apparently not," Zintol replied, reviewing the data streams. According to their communications, they're more concerned about their entertainment options than the lethal environment. One researcher just described it as a bit chilly in -60-degree conditions. The crew had learned early in their observation that human temperature tolerance was extraordinary. They routinely survived and even thrived in conditions ranging from Arctic frost to desert heat, often with minimal protective gear. "What's truly fascinating," Captain Vexra noted, "is their drive to push boundaries. They're not content with merely surviving their death world. They actively seek ways to explore even more hostile environments." The screens displayed images from human space programs. Despite their primitive technology, humans were already planning missions to Mars, a planet even more inhospitable than their homeworld. They discussed these potential suicide missions with enthusiasm, calling them the next great adventure. "They've turned their biological advantages into cultural traits," Kai-Rem observed. "Look at their educational systems. They're teaching their young to be curious about everything, even potentially lethal situations." The observation team had been particularly intrigued by human children. While most species carefully protected their offspring from all possible dangers, humans seemed to operate on the principle that some danger was educational. They had countless sayings about learning from mistakes and getting back up after falling. Speaking of education, Zintol interjected, their information networks are fascinating. They've created vast repositories of knowledge, which they use primarily for sharing pictures of small animals and arguing about insignificant details. Captain Vexra's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. That's another remarkable aspect. Their ability to find joy and humor in almost any situation. They face potentially extinction-level events and respond by creating entertainment about it. The screens showed humans creating art, music, and stories about everything from natural disasters to cosmic horrors. They seemed to process their fears and challenges through creativity, turning them into something they could laugh about. "Captain," the ship's AI announced, "I've completed my analysis of human medical practices. You might want to review this separately. Some of it is rather disturbing." The crew gathered to read the report, their various physiological indicators showing increasing disbelief. Humans routinely survived injuries that would be fatal to most species. They had developed medical procedures that involved deliberately cutting themselves open to fix internal problems. Even more incredibly, they often remained conscious during emergency situations, cracking jokes with their medical practitioners. They're not just adapting to their death world. Captain Vexra concluded, her exoskeleton shifting to a deep purple of revelation. They're actively shaping it to their will, and when that's not enough, they adapt themselves to handle even more extreme conditions. As if to emphasize her point, the screen showed humans engaging in something called extreme sports, which appeared to be entirely voluntary near-death experiences for entertainment purposes. "Should we proceed with contact preparations?" Kai Rem asked, her bioluminescence pulsing with anticipation. Captain Vexra's exoskeleton settled into a determined shade of blue. "Yes, but we'll need to revise our standard protocols. Clearly, our usual safety parameters are insufficient for dealing with humans." "What's the worst that could happen?" Zintol asked, attempting to use human-style humor. The entire bridge crew turned to stare at him, their various physiological indicators showing universal concern. They had learned enough about humans to know that such questions typically preceded what humans called interesting times. Little did they know just how interesting things were about to become. Research Vessel Stellar Seeker. First Contact Protocol. Earth Orbit. Day of Initial Contact. The carefully planned First Contact Protocol lasted exactly 3 minutes and 42 seconds before experiencing what Captain Vexra would later describe in her official report as typical human chaos adaptation. The Stellar Seeker had positioned itself in clear view of Earth's major observation centers, broadcasting standard peaceful contact signals on all frequencies. They expected the usual response: panic, religious crisis, perhaps some military posturing. Instead, they got memes. "Captain," Kai Rem called out, her bioluminescent patches strobing with confusion, "I'm detecting millions of simultaneous transmissions. Humans are making jokes about us on something called Twitter." Before Vexray could respond, their communication system was flooded with messages from thousands of amateur radio operators, each trying to be the first to say hello. Several humans had already created merchandise with badly drawn approximations of their ship, and someone had apparently written a song about them that was going viral. "They're not afraid," Zentol observed, his gaseous form rippling with amazement. "They're excited. Look at these messages. They're asking if we want to try something called pizza." The ship's AI interrupted with urgent news. "Captain, multiple human governments are requesting official contact. Also, something called Reddit is currently debating whether your ship design would make a good skateboard ramp." Captain Vexra's exoskeleton shifted through several colors before settling on a bemused blue. "Begin landing procedures. Let's meet these humans before they try to turn our first contact into an extreme sport." The chosen landing site was a large open area near their main governing body, the United Nations. The Stellar Seeker's crew had prepared for every contingency except the one they got. A welcoming committee that included not just officials and scientists, but food trucks, street vendors, and what appeared to be a flash mob performing choreographed dances. Are those humans holding up signs offering to trade their siblings for alien technology? Kai Rem asked, scanning the crowd. Yes, the ship's AI confirmed, though I believe some of them are what humans call jokes. Probably. I'm still having trouble distinguishing human humor from actual proposals. As the landing ramp descended, Captain Vexra led her crew out in their most formal diplomatic attire. They had studied human customs extensively and were determined to make a good first impression. What they hadn't prepared for was a human child breaking through security to ask if Zintol was made of cotton candy. The situation only got more interesting from there. Despite careful cultural briefings, nothing had prepared them for actual human interaction. Within hours, several crew members had been offered various Earth foods, been taught something called the Macarena, and acquired a collection of souvenir T-shirts. Captain Kai Rem reported during their first break in diplomatic meetings, I believe I may have accidentally agreed to judge a hot dog eating contest. Also, 3 humans have asked if my bioluminescence would work in a rave. Vexra, who had somehow acquired a coffee mug reading World's Best Alien Captain, clicked her mandibles in what was becoming a familiar expression of resigned amusement. At least you haven't been invited to what they call a podcast yet. Apparently, humans want to interview me about my thoughts on something called cryptocurrency. The formal diplomatic discussions were equally surprising. Human representatives seemed less interested in galactic politics and more concerned about practical matters, like whether their dogs would be welcome on other planets and if alien species had anything similar to pizza. They're simultaneously discussing advanced energy technology and asking if we've ever tried dipping French fries in a milkshake, Zintol reported, his gaseous form swirling with a mix of confusion and intrigue. I'm not sure which conversation is considered more important to them. The ship's AI had given up trying to maintain standard diplomatic protocols and was now helping humans create what they called space memes. It had also, somewhat worryingly, started using human slang in its reports. The real breakthrough in human-alien relations came not during any official meeting, but when a group of engineering students showed up with what they called a crazy idea about modifying the Stellar Seeker's propulsion system using principles they'd learned from studying cat videos. The most disturbing part, Captain Vexra noted in her log, is that their calculations actually make sense. They've somehow developed advanced physics concepts by watching their small predator pets knock things off elevated surfaces. As the first day of contact drew to a close, the crew gathered to share their experiences. They had learned several important lessons about humans. Their response to the unknown was not fear, but curiosity mixed with an inexplicable desire to either eat it, befriend it, or turn it into entertainment. They processed new information by making jokes about it, often while simultaneously developing revolutionary scientific theories. They had an unprecedented ability to make any situation, even first contact with alien life, feel like a casual social gathering. Captain, the ship's AI interrupted their debriefing. You should know that humans have already created something called a TikTok challenge inspired by Zintol's gaseous form. They're calling it the Cloud Dance Challenge. Vexra's exoskeleton shifted to a color that didn't have a name in any known language. Send a message to Galactic Command. Tell them we're going to need new protocols. All of them. And maybe some antacids. The humans want us to try something called extra spicy wings tomorrow. As the crew prepared for their second day of contact, none of them realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity wasn't just joining the galactic community. They were about to renovate it, possibly with explosion-powered improvements. Research vessel Stellar Seeker, emergency response log. Earth orbital space. 3 months after first contact. No one expected the crisis to begin with a meme. The Stellar Seeker's AI had been monitoring human social media when it detected an unusual pattern. Multiple amateur astronomers posting about a weird space thing that was definitely not supposed to be there. Captain, Kai Rem called out, her bioluminescence pulsing in urgent patterns. You need to see this. Humans have discovered the quantum anomaly before our sensors did, and they're making jokes about it. The screens filled with human social media posts, while professional astronomers debated the nature of the massive reality warping phenomenon heading toward their solar system. Civilian humans were already creating memes about spicy space problems and voting on what to name it. Captain Vexra's exoskeleton shifted to emergency response colors as she assessed the situation. How are they remaining so calm? This type of quantum anomaly has destroyed entire civilizations. According to their data streams, Zintol reported, his gaseous form condensing with concern. They're using humor as a coping mechanism, while simultaneously developing multiple plans to deal with the threat. They're calling it Project Hold My Beer. The next few days were a crash course in human crisis management. While the Galactic Council debated proper procedures, humans had already established international task forces, created emergency response memes, and somehow turned quantum physics calculations into a viral social media challenge. Captain, the ship's AI announced, you need to see what they're doing at Sea Arnon. They've modified their particle accelerator based on those TikTok videos of cats pushing things off tables. The screen showed human scientists working alongside alien experts, approaching the problem with what they called chaotic good energy. They had taken established galactic physics principles and started adding what they termed spicy improvements. They're not just thinking outside the box, Kai Rem observed, watching humans combine advanced alien technology with what appeared to be duct tape and enthusiasm. They've forgotten the box exists and are building something new out of its theoretical remains. The quantum anomaly was approaching faster than expected, but humans seemed to take this as a personal challenge. Their solution involved combining 17 different scientific disciplines, 3 social media platforms, and what they called big YouTube energy. Their plan is insane, Vexra stated, her mandibles clicking rapidly as she reviewed the proposals. They want to essentially punch a hole in reality using modified TikTok algorithms and something they call Vine energy. The worst part, Zintol added, his gaseous form swirling with a mix of horror and admiration, is that our calculations show it might actually work. The human approach to the crisis defied all standard protocols. They crowdsourced complex quantum calculations through what they called math Twitter. Teenage humans on social media somehow contributed meaningful improvements to advanced alien technology. Someone started a trend of explaining quantum mechanics through cat memes, and it was surprisingly effective. Captain, the ship's AI reported, humans have turned the crisis response into something they call a call-up. Multiple social media influencers are explaining our technology through dance moves, and engagement rates are unprecedented. The actual execution of their plan was pure human chaos energy. While alien scientists carefully calibrated equipment, humans added what they called emergency modifications, using materials that ranged from advanced alien alloys to something called WD-40. Their solution shouldn't work, Kai Rem noted, her bioluminescence flickering with amazement. It violates at least 7 laws of physics, but they're approaching those violations with such confidence that reality seems afraid to argue. The moment of truth came as the quantum anomaly reached the outer solar system. The combined human-alien defense system powered up, using principles that mixed advanced galactic science with what humans called vibing with the universe. This is either going to save us all or tear reality apart, Vex Ray observed, her exoskeleton shifting through stress colors. Why not both? A human scientist responded cheerfully. We can multitask. To everyone's amazement except the humans, it worked. The quantum anomaly was not only stopped but somehow turned into what humans were already calling a cosmic light show. Several humans immediately started planning how to turn it into a tourist attraction. I don't understand, Zintol admitted, watching humans celebrate their victory by creating new memes about it. How did they know it would work? They didn't. Captain Vexra realized, her exoskeleton settling into a color of profound understanding. They just refused to accept failure as an option and kept trying until reality gave up and did what they wanted. In the aftermath, as the Galactic Council tried to process how humans had solved a crisis using social media, memes, and sheer determination, the crew of the Stellar Seeker made several notable observations. Humans approached existential threats with a unique combination of humor, creativity, and what they called spite-powered problem-solving. Their ability to adapt and improvise wasn't just a survival trait. It was their primary method of scientific advancement. They had somehow turned a near catastrophe into content for multiple social media platforms, while simultaneously revolutionizing galactic physics. Captain, the ship's AI interrupted. Humans are already incorporating the quantum defense system into something they call space TikTok dances. Also, someone has suggested using the residual quantum effects to improve pizza delivery times. Vexra's exoskeleton shifted to a color that could only be described as resigned acceptance. Update the report to Galactic Command. Tell them we're going to need new scientific protocols, and possibly a social media department. As humanity celebrated their victory with what they called a quantum rave, the galaxy was beginning to realize that they hadn't just survived a crisis. They had witnessed the beginning of a new era. An era where human chaos energy was about to collide with galactic civilization in ways no one could predict. And somewhere in the quantum aftermath, a new meme was born. Earth, where physics goes to get reorganized by spite and creativity. Galactic Council Chambers, 1 year after the quantum crisis. Official documentation of human integration impact. The ancient warning beacons around Earth's solar system hadn't been removed. Instead, they'd been updated with new messages. Warning: humans inside. They will try to feed you, teach you to dance, and solve your problems with solutions that shouldn't work but do anyway. Bring snacks. Captain Vexra, now serving as Earth's primary diplomatic liaison, stood before the Galactic Council, her exoskeleton shifting through professional colors as she delivered her annual report on human integration into galactic society. In conclusion, she stated, mandibles clicking with carefully measured emphasis, humanity hasn't just joined our community. They've fundamentally altered how the galaxy functions, mostly by refusing to accept limitations we never thought to question. The evidence was everywhere. Human influence had spread through galactic civilization, like what they called viral content. Space stations that once operated with sterile efficiency now had coffee shops and what humans insisted on calling chill zones. Alien species that had never considered recreational activities were now participating in intergalactic game nights. The humans have introduced something they call weekend vibes to space travel. Kyrem reported, her bioluminescence pulsing in rhythm with the background music that now seemed to play everywhere. Several quantum drive engineers have reported improved efficiency after implementing what humans call good vibes only protocols. Perhaps most significantly, humanity's approach to problem solving had infected the galaxy's scientific community. Research papers now regularly included phrases like, "We tried it for the memes," and "it worked because we didn't know it shouldn't." Remember when science had rigid protocols? Zintol asked, his gaseous form swirling nostalgically. Now we have quantum physicists collaborating with TikTok dancers to solve complex mathematical problems. The strangest part is that it's producing better results. The Stellar Seeker's AI, which had long since given up maintaining formal communication protocols, interrupted with its daily report. Human influence update. 3 more alien species have adopted pizza as their official diplomatic food. The Galactic Library has been reorganized using what humans call chaotic good energy. Someone has taught the Hive Mind Collective to do the Macarena. The changes weren't just cultural. Humanity's refusal to accept conventional limitations had led to technological breakthroughs that the galaxy's finest minds had considered impossible. They'd improved faster than light travel by applying principles learned from cat videos, revolutionized quantum communications using meme theory, and somehow made spacecraft more efficient by adding what they called cool racing stripes. They're not just thinking outside the box, one council member observed. They've deconstructed the box, turned it into a TikTok challenge, and used the resulting data to improve quantum engineering. The integration hadn't been without its challenges. Several ancient species had gone into voluntary isolation after humans attempted to teach them something called viral dances. The Quantum Mathematics Guild was still trying to process how humans had solved complex equations using only Gen Z humor and spite. The most concerning development, Vexra reported, is that humans have begun applying their chaos energy to galactic bureaucracy. They've somehow made administrative processes more efficient by adding what they call speedrun strats. The evidence was in the data. Processes that once took cycles to complete were now being finished in days, largely because humans had turned them into competitive challenges. They'd gamified everything from space traffic control to diplomatic negotiations. They've even affected how we handle crises, Kai Rem noted. The standard response to any galactic emergency now includes creating memes about it while solving the problem through increasingly improbable methods. The ship's eye, which now insisted on being called Vibing Void Entity, added its own observations. Humans have successfully exported their concept of Friday energy to species that don't even have a 7-day week. Also, someone taught the crystalline hive to do finger guns. They don't even have fingers. The galaxy had changed in ways that would have been unthinkable before humanity's arrival. Space stations now had designated areas for what humans called jamming sessions. Serious diplomatic meetings regularly included snack breaks and dance intervals. Even the most ancient species had started using human slang, though not always correctly. Yesterday, Zentol reported, "I heard a quantum elder describe a supernova as totally yeet. I'm still not sure if they used the term correctly, but everyone understood the meaning." As Captain Vexra concluded her report to the council, she added one final observation. The ancient warnings about humanity were correct, but they missed the point. Yes, humans change everything they touch, but they do so by making the impossible seem not just possible, but inevitable. They've taught the galaxy to question its limitations, mainly by refusing to acknowledge that limitations exist. The council chambers, once a place of solemn deliberation, now featured comfortable seating areas, snack dispensers, and what humans called good background vibes. As if to emphasize the point, someone had added plants because they improve the energy of the space. Final note, the AI announced, humans have successfully taught the void dancers to do something called the electric slide. Related, we may need to update our definition of impossible again. As the council session ended, Vexra's exoskeleton shifted to a color that could only be described as contentment. The galaxy wasn't just surviving human integration, it was thriving on it. Yes, things were chaotic, unpredictable, and often made no logical sense, but they worked better than ever before. Captain Kai Rem called out, her bioluminescence flickering with amusement. Humans have just proposed improving quantum drive efficiency by adding what they call RGB gaming lights. The worst part is, preliminary tests show it actually works. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the ancient civilizations that had left those warning beacons were probably watching in bewilderment as humanity turned their carefully ordered galaxy into something new, something more chaotic, more vibrant, and infinitely more interesting. And if they listened carefully, they might hear the sound of the galaxy learning to vibe with human chaos energy, one impossible solution at a time.